A photo hits social media, the Hayes hunting lodge reduced to charred rubble. Caption: cleaned up the eyesore. Sandra Whitfield stands beside the wreckage, pink vest bright against the smoke. She types it herself. 60 miles away, Robert Hayes teaches a youth hunter safety class at the state capitol, unaware. His phone vibrates sharply on the desk, a push notification from the community news group. Robert glances down. The image loads. His face goes hard, eyes turning to stone. Without a word, his hand moves to his jacket. A metallic glint, something official out of sight. He excuses himself, steps into the hallway, and dials a number from memory. Behind his calm, a cold fury crystallizes. This is not just a crime, it's personal.
Collins, it's Hayes. The lodge is down. Scramble a team, 2 hours, secure the site.
He pockets the phone. The weight of metal presses against his chest. The game warden is coming home. To understand Robert Hayes's fury, you have to go back 3 months before the demolition when the lodge still stood. His grandfather built this place in 1952. For 20 years, Robert taught hunter safety and preserved the backcountry. Then Lakeside Estates appeared on the forest edge, identical houses, manicured lawns, and an HOA president who saw the lodge as a threat.
That backwoods shack endangers children. Rifle fire, wild game, strangers roaming about. It has to go permanently.
Mrs. Whitfield, my lodge has been here for 5 decades. We run safe, state-certified operations. Let's discuss your concerns.
Sweetie, you don't understand. I'll have the county shut you down by next month. This isn't the frontier anymore.
You don't want to go down this road, I'm warning you. Walk away now.
The game warden will hear about this. You'll lose your license for endangering the public. I'll report you personally.
Robert said nothing more. He watched her leave, coffee mug steady in his hand. He'd faced bigger threats. Sandra was already drafting demolition plans. She thought she'd won before the fight even started. Within days, Sandra filed 3 noise complaints with the county, all alleging late-night gunfire from the lodge. None true.
This is a safety hazard and a public nuisance. I expect the county to take immediate enforcement action.
Robert received a certified letter from the county zoning board. He read it on the porch, then folded it and put it in his pocket.
We've collected 200 signatures demanding the lodge be condemned. This man runs an illegal operation right next to our children.
Mrs. Whitfield, you've been misinforming these folks. My lodge has state permits. I teach hunter safety for the county.
Your hunter safety is a cover. We see strangers with guns. This isn't a rural free-for-all anymore, Mr. Hayes.
You're building a case on lies. If you push this any further, you'll regret it. Walk away now. Last warning.
Is that a threat? The board will send a formal condemnation to the state. By spring, your shack will be gone.
Robert didn't flinch. He walked out past the staring crowd, knowing the next move would be hers. Within a week, the petition hit 300 signatures. Sandra had declared total war on the Hayes Hunting Lodge.
Listen up, Lakeside Estates. Community Work Day this Saturday. We're finally tearing down the Hayes eyesore. Bring gloves?
Robert found the flyer pinned to his lodge door, removal of unsafe structure, and his jaw tightened. That afternoon, a certified letter arrived, mandatory state instructor duty at the Capitol. No deferrals, no excuses.
She'll demolish the lodge the minute I'm gone. But if I skip this duty, I lose my instructor status.
He packed his truck, locked every door, and drove out of the forest, watching the lodge shrink in the mirror. From the edge of Lakeside Estates, Sandra watched his truck disappear. Her smile was as cold as the coming frost.
He's gone. Meet me at the gate before sunrise. Bring the big equipment. I want that pile of logs reduced to splinters.
Long before dawn, a bulldozer and 2 pickups rolled up to the lodge. Sandra had given them the gate codes.
Wait for my call. I want to see the walls fall. It's been a long time coming, and I deserve the satisfaction.
The Hayes Hunting Lodge had hours left. Robert was 60 miles away. Sandra Whitfield thought she'd already won. At dawn, the bulldozer's blade punched through the lodge wall. Wood screeched, glass shattered, and decades of history began to collapse.
That's it! Tear it all down! Every last splinter of that eyesore. Nothing worth saving.
The roof caved in, sending a plume of dust into the forest. Sandra didn't flinch. She smiled wider. She raised her smartphone, framed the destruction, and snapped a photo. The perfect shot. She posted the photo with the caption, "Cleaned up the eyesore." The image exploded across the community feed within minutes. By mid-morning, nothing remained but a smoldering pit. The Hayes hunting lodge was gone. Sandra popped a bottle of champagne right there on the debris. She toasted with the crew as if it were a holiday.
To progress. Finally, a view without that redneck shack ruining our property values.
The post spread. HOA members congratulated her with laughing emojis. Sandra basked in the digital applause. But victory can blind you. Sandra Whitfield had just destroyed state property, and the man who owned it was already on his way. As smoke coiled above the ruins, Robert Hayes was already moving through the Capitol corridor, phone pressed to his ear.
Collins, I need the felony destruction statute pulled and a warrant draft. She just incinerated a state-licensed outpost.
He paused at the stairwell. Every noise complaint, every county petition, it had all led here.
She wanted the game warden's attention. She's about to get everything she asked for.
His fingers brushed the heavy metal in his interior pocket, a weight that carried the entire state's authority.
Secure the site. Nobody leaves. I'll be there in 90 minutes and Mrs. Whitfield will have a lot to explain.
He didn't return to the classroom. The substitute stepped in, bewildered, as Robert disappeared down the stairwell. Behind his calm, a storm was brewing. Every step brought him closer to a reckoning 3 months in the making.
It's Hayes. I'm en route. Have the documents ready. We're doing this by the book, exactly the book she never read.
He pocketed the phone. The badge stayed hidden, but soon Sandra Whitfield would learn exactly who she'd been reporting to. At a rest stop halfway to the lodge, Robert killed the engine. He reached behind the seat and retrieved a garment bag. From the jump seat, he pulled out an olive-green uniform shirt, creased and official. The gold badge caught the overhead light. He shrugged off his brown work jacket and slipped into the uniform. The fabric settled on his shoulders like it belonged there because it did. He clipped the badge to his chest. Chief State Game Warden gleamed in the late morning sun as he stepped out of the truck.
Collins, status report. I'm uniformed and on the road. Tell me the site is secure and nobody's left.
The warden service had arrived moments ago. Collins had blocked the exits and was holding the demolition crew for questioning.
This is a milestone, people. Finally, we can enjoy our lakefront without gunshots. And that backwoods cabin is gone forever.
She raised her glass, unaware that a state-issued vehicle was closing the distance, its sirens silent but its purpose unmistakable.
She threatened to report me to the game warden. Now she'll learn I am the game warden she reports to.
And not just any game warden. The chief of the entire region was coming, badge and warrant in hand. 2 game wardens in olive green blocked the lodge entrance. Behind them, orange cones and crime scene tape already marked the perimeter.
By order of Chief Warden Hayes, this is a state crime scene. Nobody leaves until he arrives.
Hayes? That's a family name around here. You can't just shut down my community workday. Hayes. Robert Hayes, the old man I threatened to report. No, it can't be. You mean the lodge? The lodge was his personal property? It had state permits. I thought he was just a squatter.
The HOA members exchanged frantic glances. This was no longer a celebration. It was a crime scene.
Mrs. Whitfield, you've been told to remain. The chief will address the situation himself. Sit tight.
Sandra's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the charred ground.
Over radio, Collins. I'm 5 minutes out. Keep her in place. It's time Mrs. Whitfield met the person she's been reporting to.
The quiet before the storm. Sandra Whitfield, pink vest bright against the rubble, suddenly looked very small. Sandra yanked out her phone, fingers shaking as she pressed the speed dial for her lawyer.
Get me Brian Keir. Now the Warden Service has blocked the whole site. They can't do this legally.
I'll take that. Your phone is part of a criminal investigation now.
Before she could argue, Collins removed the phone from her grip and sealed it in an evidence bag.
Then bring me the Chief Warden. I demand to see him. I know enough about this state's bureaucracy to make your life miserable.
You'll meet him very soon, Mrs. Whitfield. He's been looking forward to this conversation.
Behind them, the demolition crew boss looked terrified. The HOA members had gone completely silent. Then an engine rumbled. Through the forest road, the olive green state truck appeared, sunlight flashing off its official plates.
Collins, hold everyone exactly where they are. I want her to see me step out of this vehicle.
The truck rolled to a stop on the edge of the debris field. The driver's door stayed shut, every eye fixed on it. The driver's door swung open. A polished boot touched the scorched earth, and Robert Hayes rose into full view, olive green uniform, gold badge blazing. He stood center of the crime scene, exactly where his family lodge once stood, and surveyed the ruins with terrifying stillness.
You? This is a setup. You're not a warden. You're the shack owner.
Robert let the silence answer. His badge caught the morning light, Chief State Game Warden, the highest authority in the entire region. The crowd gasped. A woman in the HOA group whispered, "Oh God, she's been reporting to him all along."
It doesn't change anything. This was an abandoned shack, a public hazard. I had every right to clean up the eyesore.
No, Mrs. Whitfield. You just demolished a state-licensed conservation outpost. That's a Class 4 felony.
Sandra's mouth opened, but no words came. The pink puffer vest seemed to deflate on her shoulders.
You reported me to the Game Warden Service 17 times. Every complaint landed on my desk. I've been waiting for this conversation.
The HOA president, who had wielded her gavel like a weapon, now stood frozen, knowing the man she harassed held the entire state's enforcement power.
This lodge wasn't just a cabin. It was a designated state conservation outpost. The permits were posted on the door you demolished.
There were no permits. I checked. It was an abandoned shack with no state documentation.
Maybe you should have checked with the agency you report to. Destroying state property carries 2 to 8 years per charge.
The HOA members who had cheered her on now edged away. Their president had turned their neighborhood into a crime scene.
This is still a zoning violation. The county ruled it unsafe. I was enforcing community standards.
Your 17 complaints about noise, safety, and illegal hunting. I reviewed every one. They were baseless fabrications.
An HOA board member muttered that Sandra had assured them the lodge was unpermitted and the warden's service supported removal.
You can't. This is a trap.
You're done, Mrs. Whitfield. The investigation will sort out exactly how many laws you broke.
One by one, the homeowners turned their backs on Sandra. She was alone in the wreckage of her own making.
I'll sue you, Hayes. I'll sue the whole department. You'll be a footnote in a lawsuit so big it'll bankrupt your grandchildren.
You're welcome to try, but right now my investigators are already pulling every state permit you've ever touched.
Sandra's face drained of color. The word permit hit her like a gunshot.
You have no authority over HOA permits. This is a property rights issue, not a game violation.
She spun, trying to weave through the debris toward the forest edge, but Collins stepped squarely into her path.
You're not leaving, Mrs. Whitfield. The chief just ordered a hold on everyone present until this site is processed.
You're being detained pending a full investigation into this demolition and into every transaction your HOA made.
Her mouth opened for another outburst, but only a thin, frightened sound escaped.
You spent months reporting me to myself. Now I'm reporting you to the state attorney general.
Behind them, the demolition crew boss whispered that he'd only been paid in cash and that Mrs. Whitfield had been selling things for years. A dark sedan pulled up beside the wreckage, and Detective David Moore stepped out, badge already in hand.
Chief Hayes, we've got a paper trail 3 years long. Your HOA president has been selling state permits to her friends.
Moore spread a folder on the hood of the Warden truck. Highlighted bank transfers, dozens of them, all routed to Sandra Whitfield.
$400,000 in cash deposits, every one a processing fee for a permit that was never recorded in the state system.
Through the truck window, Sandra's face turned a sickly gray. She pressed her palms against the glass, watching the documents change hands.
They know everything. Every envelope, every cash deposit. I'm finished.
So the demolition wasn't just spite, it was cover. She needed the lodge gone before anyone asked where the permits went.
Moore nodded, pulling out a sealed envelope marked confidential HOA permit records that a whistleblower had mailed.
Every lakefront lot she sold came with a free hunting permit. She pocketed the fees and never registered a single transaction.
Sandra Whitfield was no longer just facing a felony destruction charge. She was a fraud suspect in a $500,000 scheme. From the cluster of silent homeowners, a man stepped forward, an HOA board accountant. He carried a 3-inch binder. The binder cover read, Lakeside Estates Permit Log, Private Ledger. Inside, every cash payment was handwritten, dated, and initialed. Moore flipped the pages, names, lot numbers, and figures that matched the bank deposits to the dollar.
This ledger is a smoking gun. Every free hunting permit matches a deposit. Mrs. Whitfield, this alone means decades.
Those are private HOA fees. I have every right to charge for community services. It's not a state permit if it's voluntary.
Hunting permits are state authority. You forged the outpost's name and pocketed the revenue. That's fraud, pure and simple.
Sandra pressed her face against the truck window, screaming so hard the glass fogged. Her fist hammered uselessly against the door.
You can't do this. I built Lakeside Estates. I deserve compensation. You're just jealous of my success.
$400,000 in undisclosed income. That's a public corruption charge on top of fraud and felony destruction. She's done.
Robert looked at Collins and gave a slow nod. The ledger and bank records told one story. Sandra Whitfield was about to be arrested. Robert walked to the Warden truck and opened the rear door. Sandra recoiled as he held up the binder and bank statements. Her eyes locked on the pages, handwritten entries matching the bank deposits. The color vanished from her face completely.
Let me make this right. I'll resign. I'll pay back every cent. Just don't put me in prison.
It's far too late for deals, Sandra. You're facing decades in a state prison.
You can't do this. My lawyer will shred your case. I'll sue you personally for defamation and false imprisonment.
You've been defaming me for months. Your words carry no weight here anymore.
Sandra's fury collapsed into sobbing. She slumped forward, the pink vest heaving with each ragged breath.
Collins, detain her formally. I'll sign the complaint right now.
Robert stepped back, his badge catching the light. The decision was made. The law was in motion. Sandra Whitfield was no longer an HOA president. She was a criminal suspect, and her empire had just crumbled to dust. Sandra lunged toward the open truck door, scrambling over the seat in a wild burst of adrenaline.
Not so fast, Mrs. Whitfield.
Let go. I'll sue every badge on this site for harassment and false arrest.
Another warden closed in, and together they forced her back onto the seat. Her face twisted from rage to helplessness.
You can't keep me here. I have rights. This is my property, my community.
The demolition crew stared at their boots. The HOA members had backed to the tree line. Nobody spoke for her. She kicked and thrashed, but the wardens held her steel steady. The struggle was brief and pitiful. Her screams dissolved into ragged sobs. The fight bled out of her all at once. Robert watched, unmoved. The glint of his badge caught the last of the morning light. Sandra Whitfield sat motionless in the truck, her mask gone, her empire dust. The silence was deafening. Robert opened the truck door fully. His voice cut through the silence like a blade of ice.
Sandra Whitfield, You are under arrest for felony destruction of state property and fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you.
And additional charges for public corruption and tax evasion are being filed as we speak.
Do you understand these rights as I have read them to you?
Yes.
Collins produced the handcuffs. Sandra didn't resist. She didn't even flinch. The cuffs clicked shut behind her back. The sound echoed off the charred timbers. 2 wardens guided her toward the patrol car. The woman who once demanded his badge was now its captive. A warden opened the patrol car door. Sandra ducked in without looking back. Through the window, her eyes found Robert. The glare was pure hatred, but powerless. Robert turned to the stunned crowd. His voice carried across the charred ground.
The law applies to everyone, and it's just been enforced. This site will be cleared. The lodge will be rebuilt at her expense. Every brick.
The HOA members stared at their ruined president's champagne bottle still lying in the dirt.
You were lied to, but from today, this land is under state conservation, public access for all.
The demolition crew boss nodded silently. One by one, the homeowners turned away. The patrol car engine started. Sandra Whitfield sat stone still in the back seat. It pulled away down the forest road, leaving only the ruins and the man in green who would rebuild them. 2 months later, Sandra Whitfield sat in a courtroom in an orange jumpsuit, her platinum hair dull under fluorescent light. The gavel fell. Guilty on all counts: felony destruction, fraud, public corruption. The document read People v. Whitfield, and the red guilty stamp bled through the page. Her assets were frozen. Every account, including the $400,000 in fraudulent permit fees, was seized. Robert Hayes took the stand once, calm, factual, unshakable. His testimony locked the cell door. Sandra stared ahead as the bailiff let her out. No friends, no gavel, no HOA. The sentence came down: 8 years minimum, plus full restitution for the lodge. The court ordered every dime to be repaid, including the cost of rebuilding the Hayes Conservation Outpost. Sandra Whitfield would pay for every nail. Her empire was reduced to a debtor's ledger, and while she began her sentence, the land waited. The rebuild was coming. Construction equipment rolled onto the scorched earth. Fresh foundations were poured where the old porch collapsed.
Lay the stone deeper this time. Make it last a century.
The wooden frame climbed against the sky, beams silhouetted by the sunset. The new lodge would be bigger, stronger. Blueprints spread across a work table showed a classroom wing, a conservation office, every detail built to state code.
The youth safety class will return. She tried to bury it. It's coming back stronger.
Across the road, workers took down the old Lakeside Estate sign. In its place, a fresh wooden sign read, Hayes Conservation Area, Public Access. The HOA dissolved. Lakefront lots once fenced off became open shore managed by the Game Warden Service. Robert watched the walls rise, his badge now on his belt. The lodge would be a state outpost from day one. Every board was funded by Sandra Whitfield's restitution. The woman who tried to erase this land was rebuilding it. The new lodge rose from the ashes, its timbers still smelling of pine. The land was healing. The Hayes Conservation Outpost opened on a crisp autumn morning. The new lodge stood proud against the pines. A small crowd gathered: wardens, families, former HOA members now welcomed as guests. Robert stepped forward with oversized scissors.
My grandfather built this place to teach. Today it teaches again.
He spoke briefly, not about vengeance, but about stewardship, about land that outlasts grudges. Inside, an old framed photograph hung on the wall, Robert's father and grandfather in front of the original lodge. Beside it, a bronze plaque: Keep the bastards from taking what's yours.
We're not here to erase the past. We're here to protect the future.
Applause scattered through the trees. Not triumph, just peace earned. The old photo watched over them. 3 generations, now 4, bound to this land, and the plaque shone in the morning light, a promise kept. Dusk fell over the new lodge. Robert stood on the porch, badge glinting in the last light. He looked out across the forest, the lake a silver mirror, the mountains blue in the distance. Behind him, the American flag flapped gently. The lodge glowed like an ember against the darkening sky. The camera pulled back higher, wider. The lodge became a speck, the forest an unbroken sea. On a rocky overlook, Robert's silhouette cut the horizon. His badge caught the final orange glow. He crossed his arms, watching the land he had guarded. No satisfaction, only certainty. The lake reflected the last light. The pines stood sentinel. The wild was safe. The aerial view spiraled wider still, the conservation area stretching from ridgeline to shore. And in that quiet, one truth hung over everything. Nobody hunts here without state permission.